Hello and welcome to the Graveyard Media Podcast, episode 75 for the week of January 28th, 2019. I'm your host, Saine Grey. With me is Dalsson.
Yo!
And Thel.
Hi.
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 So we're going to talk about
Hi!
games and movies we've checked out this week, and afterwards, for the second half of the show, do video game and movie news.
Alright.
But
Yeah.
sounds like, Thel, you haven't done anything this week, right?
Oh, yeah, I played Hollow Knight. Still good.
Why don't you start, Dalsson?
What? Okay, fine. So, I played a game called Frostpunk. This was on a lot of people's, Games of the Year list and stuff, and everybody loves it. Essentially, what it is a city builder, where the concept is the entire world has gotten so cold that there's nowhere to live, and you go on an expedition to find a place to live, and you find this crater, and it has some kind of heat generator in the center of the crater, so you start to live around that, and you build up a city, and it's kind of basic resource management and stuff. You have to make sure that your people are happy. You have to make sure
Which they
that
never are.
Yeah, they never are. You have to make sure that the fire is always going. Like, you have to ensure that you're mining enough coal to heat all of the buildings you're making. But if you don't make enough buildings, you won't get... God damn it. People are adding me. I'm sorry. It's very interesting. You have to very carefully balance your resources in this one. And one thing that I find interesting about it is there's also a world map where you can send out expeditions to explore and, encounter random events and stuff, while you're also doing your own city building thing in the middle. Kind of uncovering what is going on in the main campaign anyway. You're kind of uncovering what's going on with the world and why it's so cold, how to fix it, or other alternatives. It gives you a lot of choices. It makes you think a lot for trade-offs and stuff.
Yeah, this game's developed by the guys who made this War of Mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it has this very similar theme in that everything is awful and you have to be the least worst you can be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's difficult.
That sounds like it's right up my alley. This game has kind of been on my, I want to play this list for, ever, but it's one of those that I've never gotten around to it.
Yeah,
I remember,
right.
when it was, first released, I don't remember if it was released in early access or not.
No.
But when I was first seeing it, it had, there was a little bit of mixed reviewing, but then they patched out all of the problems, essentially.
Yeah.
And now everyone's going apeshit over it.
Frostpunk
and-
I heard good things about it right from the beginning, actually.
And
Alright.
So I
I
don't
mean,
know.
what I like about it is it makes you balance your resources so carefully, but there's not that many to balance. Like, you need wood and steel to actually build things, and you need coal to heat things, and you have to make sure you're producing enough coal.
And there's
But that's it. There's not like you need coal to heat houses, but you need a source of running water to generate electricity to make light for houses, and also if there's not enough corners in your house, stupid shit like that.
I think the game is also they have choices all the time, or maybe it's a tech tree or something, but they have these choices where they'll come up with things like, should we eat the corpses?
Oh yeah,
and
so it's not choices. It does function more like a tech tree.
Okay.
That's like the law.
Yeah.
There's a system of laws. So every day you can pass one new law, and it essentially works like a tech tree. Like, you can create a cemetery, and everybody will be happy, and they'll lose less hope when people die. Or you can build a body pile to pile them in the snow, but later you'll be able to pass an organ transplant law and save more people's lives. People won't be happy with you burying their dead relatives in the snow, though.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different choices like that are kind of shitty choices, but they kind of force you to pick.
Mm-hmm.
You
Everything
basically
has-
have to do bad shit in order to survive.
Yeah,
Very
keep
reminiscent
people
of
happy.
how they did.
this War of Mine. I played this War
Yeah.
of Mine for a while, too, and I didn't even realize it was from the same guys, but it totally makes sense. It provokes that same kind of, what do I do in this situation? What's the least shitty while I still get to live?
Yeah.
I played this War of Mine for like an hour and was like, this is too depressing for me. I have enough shit going on in my life.
Yeah,
Right.
fair enough.
This War of Mine was another game that I was like, wow, this looks really neat. I want to play it. Never did.
Well,
That's
I don't know. It was good.
yeah. I guess that's that company's reputation with me. Me looking at their games thinking, wow, this is a really interesting concept. I actually really am interested. And I could play this for a long time, and they're just not. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, well, you can play it off my family show now. You should definitely give it a whirl. Like I said, I think you'd really like it specifically.
Yeah, I think I would. I think I would.
But that's all I've really done is play Frostpunk. I played a lot more Slay the Spire modded characters, but
Any highlights?
I played as Dante from the Devil May Cry series. He's insane. His starting relic essentially makes it so that if you play 7 cards in one turn, you get all your energy back.
Hmm.
And then
That's
of course
cool.
he has tons of shit to draw with, so he can just kind of keep going forever.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nifty, but I think he's a little overpowered. You know, as expected of mods, some of them aren't going to be perfectly balanced.
Right. I think it's as fine as
They also
it's fine as long as it does invoke the feeling that it's probably going for. So,
Mhm.
and I feel like playing as many cards as possible in one turn seems like the Devil May Cry
Devil
thing.
May Cry
So.
fair, exactly. There's also a neat little mod out called The Jungle, which will give you the choice on the second floor of the second act to either go to the city or go to the jungle with a whole set of new bosses, new enemies, new events. And they made it for like a game jam. That's really neat. That's probably my favorite mod that I've downloaded for Slay the Spire ever.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we'll talk about the big thing since no one else has done anything this week.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry. I'll do stuff next week. I'm gonna watch. I got like 15 movies on the back burner. I gotta watch Widows, House That Jack Built. There's another one. Can't remember.
So I played Resident Evil 2, the remake, this week.
Mhm.
Man, I love that game. It's so good.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, the original one, was actually one of my favorite games of all time. Although I didn't play it myself the first time, through. I think I played it. I replayed it later, but kind of what was nostalgic for me was the first time that I watched someone else play it. It's to the extent where, as a kid, I remember being very upset with my parents because they were in the living room playing Resident Evil, and I was like sick to my stomach, and like just the thought, like I couldn't watch it, like it I don't know. It like gave me nightmares or something. But not nightmares in the like traditional I'm afraid sense, like physical issues related to it somehow.
Right.
So it,
What if the game was cursed?
I don't know. But it's kind of funny that like over time something that I kind of hated as a kid turned into one of my favorite properties of all time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I remember a lot of things from Resident Evil 2, but there's a lot that I don't remember. And this game is like, so it's a remake, but it's not like a 1-for-1 remake. They actually changed quite a bit, like a lot more than I was expecting. And I think I expected it to change even more than like Dalsson did. They fiddled with the story a little bit. It's basically the same, but they changed how Leon and Claire met. I guess, okay, for context, for anyone who doesn't know what Resident Evil 2 is, Resident Evil 2 is a survival horror game. It's a game where you play as one of two characters, Leon Kennedy or Claire Redfield, going into a police station that is essentially a mansion, like a huge mansion, kind of built in an old like weird ass museum, and there's like secret passageways, and there's like mysterious things going on under the building, like secret laboratories and stuff. And Leon and I guess Leon and Claire show up in this town, and it's just swarming with zombies. Leon was like supposed to come in a week sooner, but he ended up coming in later because they told him not to come because stuff was happening, and then
he decided to anyway.
Well, it was like they told him not to come, and then he didn't hear anything else, so he decided to come anyway, and then found out the city was fucked up. So, and Claire is looking for her brother, which was the protagonist of Resident Evil 1. Yeah. Or one of the two protagonists from Resident Evil 1. Yes, yeah. Chris Redfield. So, yeah, you go into the police station, and they've changed kind of a lot of the ways that certain things work mechanically. Like, for instance, the biggest change that comes to my mind is, so you have, like, combat knives, right?
Sure.
Instead of, like, really slashing dudes like you would, it's kind of used as, like, a defense tool. So if you get grabbed and you have a knife, you can use the knife to kill the zombie before it bites you, and then it uses up durability on the knife. And you can do that 3 times before the knife breaks.
Okay.
So it's basically
so
like
a knife is more like a get out of jail free card.
Kind of. You can still equip it and like slash things, but if they're close enough to grab you, they'll grab you. So you can only really use it on enemies that are like knocked down or something.
Right.
They also have hand grenades and flashbangs now, which you can use those directly as the same kind of, like, you can throw them at dudes, or you can also use them as defense tools. So, like, a zombie's grabbing you, you take the grenade, you stick it in their mouth and push them off, and their head explodes. So there's some of that.
See, that's pretty cool.
And that kind of evokes maybe, like, a Resident Evil 4 kind of feel, right?
Yeah. Which was a lot of people's favorite game in the series.
Right. Yeah. It was not mine, but I don't blame people for liking that one the best. I think that was a very good game. It was just not my favorite. Right. And so I've always liked some aspect of every Resident Evil game. Like, I was a defender of Resident Evil 6. I thought that game was a lot better than people said it was. Mm-hmm. And then, like, Resident Evil 5 was a weird one because, like, people kind of didn't like the main campaign because it was sort of very action-oriented, and you had unless you played co-op with someone, you had a really dumb AI partner.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the problem with Resident Evil 6 a little bit, too. You had
Whereas
3
if you
campaigns.
With somebody, you just have a dumb human partner.
Right, exactly. But a dumb human partner doesn't waste all of your supplies and shit, so...
Yeah, okay.
Which I think they did in Resident Evil 5, but in Resident Evil 6, I think they made it so they don't use your items.
Oh, good.
But Resident Evil 5 also got a really big following from, the Mercenaries mode. That was, like, insanely popular for some reason.
It was so popular that Resident Evil 5 Mercenary mode was a title on
standalone DS game, I think.
Yeah.
So Resident Evil 6, like, does such a good job of remaking the game.
Or Resident Evil 2.
Or Resident Evil 2, yeah, sorry. I started talking about all the Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 2 does a really good job of, like, remaking the game and changing just enough to keep it fresh. The police station is way darker than it used to be. In the original game, the lights were on in most places.
Oh!
This game, the lights are off in most places.
I see.
There's still a few rooms that have the lights on, but, like, by and large, you're walking through dark hallways with a flashlight and a gun. So,
Jesus.
The game is really stingy with bullets. I'm pretty sure the game is more stingy with bullets than it was originally, even. Like, it's to the extent they don't actually give you bullets most of the time. They give you gunpowder, and they're like, make your own.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's just like Fallout 76.
I think, and in a way, I think they changed the story a little bit to make it make a bit more sense too. In the original one, not a lot of time passed between like the initial outbreak and everyone being dead. And so it made you like, it sort of begs the question, why did all of these cops die? And then a rookie cop shows up and kills everything. And I don't know, maybe that stuff was, maybe like the time frame was still in there a little bit, but it seems more like, okay, you're coming in, all of the bullets are gone because they used them all. Like, the police station is only like barely functioning, like all of the, they're missing like fuses and shit for everything, and the power's out in half the rooms, and like nobody's really there except for one dude who talks to you kind of in the beginning of the game, and so you're just kind of going through. What?
I didn't remember Leon delaying a week in the original cut. Did they like? Is that what happened in the remake, and that's why everything's different?
So I don't remember that either, for one way or the other. So it might just be like they didn't change that, but they made the game reflect that more, or they might have made it that way. I'm not entirely sure. And they changed a lot of other things. Like some of the puzzles they tweaked so that they made more sense. Like, I remember this. There's a puzzle in the parking garage in the police station in the first game where you needed to find little plugs that had chess pieces on one end, and you plugged them in a pattern to unlock the back gate to the building. You know what I mean? This game, it was like, no, that's stupid. This dude just has a key card. This dude has a key card that just says, parking garage on it, because it would make sense for a parking garage to just have a key card. So
yeah, you wouldn't have to solve puzzles to get into the fucking parking garage of a Ripley's, believe it or not.
Yeah. And like I said, it's been a really long time, so I'm not entirely sure 100% what they changed. So, but like, even the fact that you're playing it in third person for most of the game really changes the feel of it. Like if you compared 1-to-1 the original like screenshots of, because the original Resident Evil 2 had static screenshots that you walked through. And that's actually part of the reason why it looked so good for its time, was it had hand-drawn backgrounds, essentially.
Yeah.
This game, the whole map is essentially the same. And you kind of like walk by, and you might go through the same hallway that you went through in the first Resident Evil 2, but just the feeling of it is so different because you're not seeing like this corner hallway with the door on it. You're not seeing, this weird static angle kind of like at an odd elevated angle. You're seeing, Leon or Claire's perspective going through.
Yeah.
I'm not super far in it yet. I'm maybe a third to a half through the first scenario. You can start as either Leon or Claire, and then the second time you play as the other character through the same like building, but with slightly different things. So one thing I was worried about, this was a thing in the first Resident Evil 2 that informed some of my decisions early on in the game that really I shouldn't have.
Okay.
They must have changed this, because if they didn't change this, then you're gonna be boned. But, or I'm gonna be boned at least. In the first Resident Evil 2, if you picked up an item, it was gone for your character in the second playthrough. So what you could do is, on Leon, you could pick up too much ammo. And the second playthrough, Claire had fucking nothing.
Dude, there's no way. No. You've got it. They couldn't have changed it.
They had to have.
That had to have been an integral part of the game design.
It was originally, but I think that maybe they thought it was needlessly punishing. Because it kind of was, you know?
Yeah,
You could
sure.
fuck up your second playthrough because you just didn't have anything. There was no herbs left because Leon took them all. There was no healing items left because Leon took, or like guns left because Leon took them all. Like there were literally guns that you could take that if you took them on Leon, Claire would not get them.
Right.
So they had to have changed that. So like going through the game, initially I was like, okay, here's a shotgun. I don't really need it yet, so I'm gonna leave it because maybe I can hold it over for Claire, and I'll just leave all the shotgun shells around. But eventually it was like, I'm so fucking out of bullets. I'm going to get that shotgun because I need something to kill things with.
Yeah.
Then after a while, it was like, I'm out of shotgun shells and handgun bullets, and there's dogs chasing me, and I'm just running for my life. Like, this game, like I said, it's really stingy with ammo, to, like, way more than the original one. So I can't imagine it being that stingy with ammo, and...
Maybe they split it into what they, like, kind of intended it players to pick up on each
Right.
playthrough. Yeah.
I think that might have been what they're doing.
Now, something that I've found interesting about like all of the stuff surrounding Resident Evil 2 is like this is a remake of the game, and this is how people should do remakes. You know, it changes the game enough significantly that it's worth essentially buying a second copy of the game, quote unquote.
I honestly would buy it again anyway. But this game is much more than just an HD remake. It is like, they changed so much.
Updated the textures. They completely remade the game from scratch, basically.
Right, and it's like they left enough elements to give you nostalgia for the original one without without changing it so much that it's a completely different game.
Right. So
and you know, updating mechanics. Like one of the things that they changed that I thought was funny is that if you play on normal mode, you can save as many times as you want on typewriters. If you play on hardcore mode, which is like the harder version, you have to use ink ribbons, which is something that was in the original series.
Yeah.
Because saving used to be a resource.
God, that's awful.
That being said, like they were never so stingy with ink ribbons in that game that you couldn't deal with it anyway.
Yeah.
So, what?
I have a question now. How are the PC controls for it?
I have it on PS4.
Damn.
Yeah. I would be playing it if he didn't have it on PS4. I just use his family sharing for it. The PC controls are pretty good for it. I played the demo and they were very good in that.
So
well,
one
that's
thing
indicative of how it controls, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One thing that worries me about the PC port is there are enemies that predominantly hunt by sound and not by vision. Okay. And there are scenes where I have walked slower through an area because there are a bunch of those enemies. So I don't know if that matters in the PC version, but analog control feels sort of important, at least on the PlayStation version. So
right. Maybe there's a walk button or something on the PC.
Maybe.
That would be an easy solution.
Yeah.
Well, you have your normal walk, but you can walk even slower.
Right.
And then there's a run. And most enemies respond to the run more than the walk anyway.
Right.
But I think that it probably doesn't matter, but potentially it could. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, I don't think that's that big of a deal. Even then, like, the shooting controls aren't that bad on the PlayStation, even with the controller, so, like...
Yeah.
And in fairness, out of the three of us, I've probably played the most console shooters, so...
Yeah.
Like, I played a lot of Halo 2 back in the day.
Right. Shooters aren't really that bad on a Steam controller like the one I have. It's pretty much just using a touchpad, which, don't get me wrong, is still much worse than a mouse, but not as bad.
One thing is, this is kind of funny. So the easy mode has auto aim. Normal mode does not. So auto aim is in there as or aim assist. They don't call it auto aim. Aim assist. So that's in there in like as a difficulty option, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, see, that's
I like that.
Yeah, it's a much better way to do difficulty than just scaling health and damage. You know? Scaling.
Although
health
they
and
do that
damage
too.
is always a shitty. Well,
yeah,
sure, but if you also throw in other things like limit your saves or
so easy mode has aim assist and enemies...
limit your saves reasonably.
Right. I don't know. I haven't played it, so I don't know how reasonable it is, but there were times in the first Resident Evil where I was going around going, shit, I'm out of ink ribbons. But the first... So, yeah, easy mode has aim assist and enemies are take less hits to kill. Normal mode, like, to the extent that in normal mode, you'll get a box of 15 bullets and be like, cool, I can kill 2 or 3 enemies now.
I see.
It takes, like, 6 headshots to kill something.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to do. Although you can sort of mitigate that, like, you can cut them on the ground a little bit to kill them. Like, you can do things.
The intention of Resident Evil 2, I remember specifically, is you're pretty much not supposed to fight every enemy. You're supposed to try to fight as few enemies as you can.
Not... Yes and no. I feel like you are given enough bullets to kill everything if you are a pretty decent shot in the original series.
Right.
This one, like, there are times where you're forced to run because you just can't kill everything. And there are rooms where you might want to kill everything so that everything's dead in that room for a while.
Right.
There's this one fucking zombie that has just been walking around in the main room, like, for half the game, and I really want to kill him because he's annoying, but I'm like,
you
I
don't
can't
want to use
the bullets, man. Yeah, exactly. So
why don't you just let him grab you and use one knife?
Because the knife doesn't actually kill them.
Oh, okay. I thought you.
It knocks them off, but it doesn't kill them. And in fact, it uses up durability, but you don't get your knife back until you kill it. So you have to kill it, and then you can pull your knife out of the corpse. Like you can't. So
you use the knife, then you have to kill it to get a damaged knife back.
Yeah, it's so.
Jesus.
I don't know. Maybe it damages them. I don't know, but I've never had the knife kill them doing that. So, the grenades do. At least the grenades do. The hand grenades one. The flash grenades don't, but you know.
Yeah.
So there's another big change that this is something new in the game that makes it a lot scarier. So if you've seen anything about the game, you might know that there's this big hulking monster guy that is often referred to as Mr. X. Before, he would pop up, and you could either fight him and kill him, or, like, kill him, right? You weaken him so that you can, like, go away or whatever. Yeah. But then he'll come back later. He'll just, like, bust through walls like Kool-Aid Man and, like, freak you out.
Yeah, and those, like, sequences were iconic in the first game. The sequences where you knew you were going to encounter him.
So,
but like the precursor to fucking Triangle Head. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What gave them the idea for that?
So before, like, you could kill him, and once he was, like, dead, he would be gone until the next time you got to a place where it would trigger him again, like trigger an event with him again. They made it so that this guy is always around. Like, he's always patrolling and wandering and looking for you.
I really have been wondering. That was a great decision, but do you think that it works similar enough to Alien Isolation that's where they might have gotten the idea for that one?
I don't think so, because I feel like this was
Resident Evil 7.
That was in Resident Evil 7, first of all. Okay. And this one, like, like in Resident Evil 7, the stupid dad would follow you around constantly.
Yeah, God.
But, so maybe it was partly that, but I think it was a logical update for this game. That's something that makes sense to add to this game.
Right. It adds a lot of tension and stuff too.
Yeah, because actually that was in Resident Evil 3 actually with the Nemesis. Part of the big feature of that game was there was an enemy that was always in the world chasing you, and even if you killed it, he would fall down and be stunned for a while.
You're in Serious Sam.
So it's to the extent where I've had to, like, eventually you get a weapon that can deal with him better. You can knock him out in 2 shots with it if you get headshots. Okay. So I've been in the situation where I'm like, okay, cool, I've stunned him long enough for me to go do this puzzle that takes a long time. Because some puzzles will pause when you're in the menu. Other puzzles, you have to, like, be physically moving stuff, so you can't. It doesn't actually pause.
Does he, like, follow you around omnipotently, or can you, like, lose him until you have to go back through an area again?
You can lose him.
Or until he accidentally stumbles on you.
He's always patrolling, and you can kind of hear his footsteps everywhere you go. So, like, he might be in a hallway, and you can be on the other side of the door of that hallway, and you'll hear, like, thump, 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 thump. So you can hear him walk by the door that you're, like, waiting next to. So, like, if he knows where you are, he will walk towards you. And so he'll follow you into places. So you can, like, screw yourself up by leading him into a hallway and then needing to get by him. So because you can't go that way, you have to suddenly run all the way around him, like through a different path in the police station to get around him.
Jeez.
So there's some of that. It's really fucking cool. Literally, the first thing he did in the game was follow me into a save room and punch me in the face. Like, I knew that there was a save room here, so I was like, oh shit, I ran right into the save room. It was like right after he spawned. I ran right into the save room, and he fucking followed me into this tiny room and punched me in the face.
Jesus.
Like, the only time that I've actually, like, had to, like, hit a continue was when that happened. He killed me in that room, and I was like, shit.
That's really funny. I agree wholeheartedly with Thel. That's a great decision to put something like that in it.
It makes the game a lot more tense. You have to think about him more than you ever had to before. Before it was like, oh shit, he showed up.
Know where he was, too, if you were replaying it.
Right. It was like, oh shit, he's here. I need to, like, I can either shoot him and, like, make him go away for a while, or I can just run away. And then once I get past a certain point, he'll despawn, essentially. Now it's like, shit, well, now I have to play Ring Around the Rosie with him because I need him out of my way, so I have to, like, lead him over here so that I can run around him to do this puzzle real fast before he shows up again. So it's like, it adds another layer of stress to the game that's already kind of present throughout the whole game, because it's like, oh, I never have enough ammo. There's always, like, a ton of enemies. There's certain enemies that I really want to kill because, like, trying to navigate with them around is, like, too hard.
Yeah.
And then there's this asshole who's just always around.
Yeah, and then it's like, on top of dealing with the other shit you have to do, now there's a guy who you have to always be thinking about where he's probably at. He's not, if you have room in whatever room you're in, it's not impossible to dodge his attacks. Like, he'll swing at you and you can kind of, like, run around him.
It's not like once he gets close enough, it's cutscene mode and you're over.
Right. He still has to punch you, and he's slow. So, you know, you can dodge him. But, you know, if he hits you, that's like, I think he needs to hit you 3 times to actually kill you from full health. But, you know, health is also a resource in that game, so every time he hits you, you're expending resources. So, you know. And it's not like you can really kill him forever. At least initially in the game.
Right.
So, the only other thing I want to touch on is, after Resident Evil 7 was a much more traditional horror game. It had it was like a horror game with survival horror elements, right? You were playing in first person. There were like jump scare-esque scenes. There were places where, you know, you started something up and then you would fall through a hole and shit, now something else is happening. Like so it was more of a horror game than this one is. But this game really does prove that, you know, survival horror elements are scary. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like boo horror. It's like a constant level of stress and encroachment of like, shit, I can't use up all of my resources here or I'll be screwed. I'll be like even worse off later. Like, you're constantly thinking, oh, that zombie, I could kill them, but they're not in a super annoying place, so maybe I'll just constantly run around them. So it's like,
Yeah.
But that all, like, but you always have to think about that guy every time you run past him for the rest of the game, essentially. So, oh, and corpses don't despawn anymore, which is something that's cool.
Interesting.
Or
So
not all of them do. Yeah, so you'll have to run back through rooms. It's like, oh yeah, there's like 6 guys here on the ground.
Yeah.
And they do a good job of having like certain enemies. So like certain enemies, when you kill them, their head is actually like exploded. You know. So
Okay.
you're like, okay, that guy doesn't have a head anymore. He's like dead.
Right.
Other dudes, like, you'll kill them, they'll fall over, they might get back up, and like, so you'll usually have to kill most enemies like twice before they're actually dead. But there's also like different levels of enemies.
Okay.
So like, there are some zombies that are like civilian zombies, and when you kill them, like 3 shots will kill them. There are other zombies that are like police officer zombies that will take 6 shots. There's also like fat people zombies.
Like Left 4 Dead.
No, they don't explode or anything, but they're just like heavier, huskier people. They'll take
They
like
take more
9
shots
shots
to
to kill. Yeah. So certain enemies, they'll take forever to kill, and it might just be like, that guy is not. I'm not gonna bother with that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So it's just so smart. It's like everything they did such a good job of updating it without making it feel, you know, like a clone of the old game.
Yeah.
Or taking away what was good about that game.
I know this is going to sound strange, but follow me here. It sounds similar to how I was talking about Frostpunk. You have to manage every resource and make every decision based on like what's the least shitty.
Right.
And it conveys it in a different way. It's not like it comes up with a dialogue box that says,
right.
if you kill this zombie, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. So I really like it. I'm glad that it proves that you can be in a third-person game and have a gun, and that's not what it takes to be a horror game anymore. You know?
Yeah.
For a while, we were doing like Amnesia, where it's like no weapons, first person, you know, and that's what horror game is now for a while. Resident Evil 7 was a half step. It was like, okay, we're taking a lot of those cool horror elements, but also giving you like guns and resources to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is like, they couldn't really realistically remake this game and have it be first person. I mean, they could have, maybe, but
yeah, but it would have been a lot harder.
Third person makes sense for this game to remake this game. So they do it in a way that doesn't take away from how scary it is. There are moments where you're like, oh shit, the guy's here. And to some extent, like, I've played Resident Evil 2, so there was a scene there I was like, okay, this is going to activate like, I know that this is going to happen. You know, I was not that scared of the dude when he first showed up because I knew who he was. Like, I played the game before, the old game, and I remember this guy. He's probably one of the most memorable things about this game. This updated version is like, there's no way this guy is not going to be more memorable now. Like, he is he is such a bigger influence on the game than he used to be, that this guy is going to be
already worked his way into memes. He's either bound for the stars or bound for like memory of about 2 weeks, and then nobody will remember who he is again.
I'm sure he'll be around. He might not be meme popular for a long time, but he'll certainly be like an enemy that you think of, like, in the same way that 10 years ago you would think about the guy the same guy in the original Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, like I said when you first started talking about him, he was still iconic in the original game.
Yeah. He used to have a brown trench coat. Now he has a gray trench coat.
Oh, that's different. Maybe maybe the brown faded away in the week that Leon was gone.
I feel like they wanted to make it gray just so that like rain effects will look better on him.
And also he's harder to see.
Yeah, a little bit. Not really though, because the dude's like white. He's like Frankenstein white, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
so he's not super hard to see. And there's scenes like you'll turn a corner and there'll just be this big hulking dude standing in front of a door, and all you can see is his silhouette, and then he sort of walks away. Like so, it's so good. Like the graphics engine was one of the best parts of the Resident Evil 7 game. And this game takes that graphics engine but has it in third person, and everything still looks fucking great. So,
Yeah.
like, this is the best looking horror game ever. This and 7, I put them on the same level, but they're the best horror games like ever, like best looking horror games ever made at this point, even more so than like Dead Space and stuff. So, I definitely recommend this game to anybody who likes survival horror. I know this game will not be for everyone, but it's already topping UK sales charts, so it seems like Resident Evil's back. So,
Oh yeah, I mean it's topping everyone's sales charts. This is actually the
UK releases their sales charts.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
This is like the one Resident Evil game that I've always been like really interested in playing, but never did. For like I don't know. I just it's one of the ones that I was always like, oh, this one looks like it has a bunch of really interesting enemy designs, and I'd love to play through it. I'm sure it would be a great survival horror game, but just like never do. I always find like newer survival horror games, so getting this remaster is super exciting for me.
So I think that this is the best of the original trilogy of Resident Evil games. Because after 3, they like went a drastically different direction with 4. And actually,
4, I'll say 4 was my favorite Resident Evil game.
And then 4 kind of like they took some of the wrong lessons from 4 when moving to 5.
Yeah.
4. So the thing I liked, the thing that was interesting about 4 was it was a hybrid of what the games used to be and what the games turned into.
Exactly.
It was still like you would have to find keys and like run around an area, and you would be in that area for a little while, and then like so you would start to learn.
Well, it also had a bunch of segments that were like wave shooter kind of deal.
Well, what I was getting at though is like you still had that Castlevania-esque exploration in certain parts, and then once you finished it, then you would move on. So it was like a more linear version of what you were doing in the previous games.
Right.
And then 5 and 6 were just linear games. Like, you didn't really hang out anywhere. Which, they turned them more into action movies, because 4 was, like, horror-esque with action movie kind of
stuff.
It
stuff
kind
on
of
top
had
of
an
it.
action movie premise. You're going to Mexico to kill the Mexico president and save the girl.
It wasn't Mexico, but yeah. It was
Spain.
Like, yeah, it was somewhere in Spain,
yeah.
So, there were,
the president of Spain, Napoleon.
They were like, what? So let's take the old Resident Evils and make them a little bit more action-oriented, and then have some of those wave-based shooter stuff. 5, it was like all wave-based shooters and linear progression. And then 6 was like, I think the problem with 6 ultimately was it was trying to serve everybody. It had a campaign that was like the Leon campaign that was more horror-esque. They had the Chris campaign, which was like action movie punch boulders man storyline. And then they had the Sherry and Jake path, which was like kind of Nemesis-esque. And also like maybe a little bit 4-esque in terms
was in that game, wasn't it?
No, they have a monster that is essentially Nemesis.
I see.
It was not the Nemesis, but it was like
I thought it was really interesting in that one how you would cross paths with the other stories sometimes. So like the 4 of you would team up to fight Nemesis. They even, if I remember right, had like an option to matchmake with somebody who was on that same part, which I'm never worked after like release day, but it was a cool concept.
It would have worked if it was more popular, but
yeah.
So I think that game was just trying to cater to too many people. It was like a lot of content. So if you liked all of it, then it was all good to you.
Yeah.
Like, so I enjoyed it, but I could see why it turned a lot of people off, and it still had a dumb AI partner if you didn't play it co-op. So that would be really frustrating if you tried to play that game alone. In a way, though, like, probably shouldn't.
That was 5, right? Or was it 6?
That was 5 and 6. No, that was 6. 5 also had a dumb AI partner, and it was linear again. And that game also had QuickTime events, which was very unpopular at the time. Or it was popular at the time, but everybody loved to hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was one of those things. It's like, QuickTime events, and they don't put them in video games anymore, which is kind of
well, they do sometimes, and even in 4, they had some QuickTime events in 4, but they weren't that bad at 4. The problem with them in 5 was one of the boss battles was nothing but QuickTime events.
Yeah, and we failed that boss battle more than any of the rest of them.
I don't know. But yeah, so I actually really liked 5 and 6 for their own thing, but they weren't horror games anymore. Like, 4 was still a horror game, kind of, ultimately. But it had, like, the atmosphere of a horror game, whereas 5 and 6 didn't. And then 7 was like, okay, we're getting back to our roots and making more of a horror game and, like, taking ideas from other horror games and making a, like, really good-ass horror game. And then Resident Evil 2, it's like, now we're, like, really going back to our roots. We're really going back to what people kind of loved in Resident Evil 2, which is, like, weird keys that have, like, emblems on them, and you're, like, exploring this mansion, and over time, you learn all of the nooks and crannies of this mansion. Like, if in Resident Evil 7, Thel, one of the aspects you like is how over time you learned that little mansion and you, like, learned where everything is. This game has that to even a greater extent. You're in, like, a larger place, and over time you're learning the paths to get through and around and ring around the Rosie, the bad guy, and stuff. So, there's even a moment where he busts through a wall. I'm like, awesome. That's really convenient. There's a hole there, and now I can get to the other side of the mansion easier.
Yeah, we're like, that happened to me a couple times in Resident Evil 7, where it was just walking around, Daddy would just bust through a fucking wall. It's like, oh, well, alright. I mean, I can chase you around in that, though. You can see me through it, but that's another way I can go.
Yeah.
So, Resident Evil 2 is such a fucking good game. Like, it's probably the best remake I've ever played. And I'm not even, like, I'm a halfway to a third way through the first scenario of 2 scenarios. So, like, I'm not even, like, close to finished with it yet. But I just am ready to sink more time into it because it's so fun. It makes me want to go back and play the Resident Evil 1 remake again. Because I never played the remake. I played the first Resident Evil, but I never played the remade Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder/hope that they remake Resident Evil 3. Because Resident Evil 3 was, like, the worst in the series, so they're like, the worst of the original trilogy. It wasn't bad. It was just not as good, I thought. So I would like to see what they do with it. What happens in Resident Evil 3 is you're Jill Valentine in the city of Raccoon City. So you're, like, running around the city part of it while the events of Resident Evil 2 are happening at the same time. So you briefly will go to the police station, but you're not really there. Like, you're there to get a thing and then leave. Like, you're not really in the police station.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of an interesting storytelling thing where it's like Resident Evil 3 is happening concurrently with Resident Evil 2, and both of these are happening, like, 2 months or something after Resident Evil 1. So I don't know that they would remake Resident Evil 3 because Resident Evil 2 was such like the best of the series, kind of like the best of the original series, that people thought about Resident Evil 2 a lot. They wanted a remake of Resident Evil 2 a lot. Where Resident Evil 3, I don't think anyone's ever really cared about it enough.
Yeah, it was like the it's like Final Fantasy VII. That's the one that everybody really wanted.
Right.
Or wanted or wants more content.
They still want it.
Yeah.
It's just it's not going to happen, but it's...
People don't really think of Resident Evil or Final Fantasy 8 or 9. Sometimes somebody will bring up 10, but, like,
I see a lot of people
I think
talk
10 and
about
10
8
too.
more than Yeah.
I think 10 and 10 2 are
weirdly
popular.
enough, I see more people talk about Resident Evil 8 than I do about 10.
Resident Evil 8?
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy, you mean?
Oh yeah, sorry, Final Fantasy. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever. Do you know what? Okay. Oh yeah. 8 is Leon and stuff. Hey, Leon. Squall.
Yeah.
They called him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. People liked 8 a lot.
Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, very good. I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's gonna be a runner for my game of the year this year, probably.
Yeah.
Like, I could already tell it's, like, really fucking good. It makes me want, like, I need to go back and finish 7, because I was, like, in the last half hour of 7. I didn't actually finish the last of the game.
Right.
So yeah. That's it for Resident Evil 2 for me.
Alright.
Didn't you guys watch, like, Steven Universe or something? You want to talk
We saw
about
the last episode of it, yeah.
Yeah.
The last, like, it was like a big special. It was like 40 minutes.
I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Try not to spoil it too hard, but I'm not gonna.
Thel and I are pretty split on it. I liked it, and I thought it tied up a lot of stuff that I found interesting, and he thinks that it didn't tie up any, or that it tied up everything.
It seemed like it tied up everything in the sort of Steven Universe way, which I was a little disappointed with. Where it's one of those, like, I implore you to reconsider situations, and then everything is immediately just flipped on its head. And it feels sort of unconclusive, though. Of course, the scene where that actually happens is specifically really, really well animated. It's a very good scene, but from, like, a character development standpoint, it doesn't really, sort of just floats out there, you know.
So
I felt like
it's sort of like moving the goalposts rather than resolving anything.
No, it resolved everything. It just resolved everything in kind of a bad way.
Whereas essentially the start of this group of episodes kind of moved the goalposts.
Yeah.
Okay.
What they did with this bomb was they had Steven to, like, it wasn't a bomb, but it was a set of episodes. So previously Steven essentially convinced two characters to flip to his side, and then afterwards those two characters are shown to be having second thoughts about kind of flipping sides, and they want to
like the afterwards
they
of that
spend like 5 episodes going over those characters with Steven and why he can convince them to really be on his side for like 5 whole episodes. And then,
well, sort of what happened is he convinced them to be on their side, and then, like, Steven does Steven stuff, and they're like, I'm actually not sure about this. That one, like, 3 seconds you convinced me to be on your side, I'm sort of having second thoughts. And I felt like that enhanced that going on, but then it just sort of does it again. And then the show, like,
to a different character.
To a different character. And then the show, like, almost sort of ends.
Did it feel rushed, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
very, like, the way that all of the problems that aren't, the way that all of the problems that have been shown throughout the show, it gets wrapped up kind of in a montage. I think the big climax ending, quote unquote, fight, as much of a fight as it can be in Steven Universe, I thought that whole scene was very climactic, and I think it kind of got that heel face turn well enough. Like, I see where it's so hard to talk about without actually saying what happened.
Right.
I see where they got that like heel face turn from, right? And I thought that the scene handled it well. It was the aftermath where it was like, okay, well, we blew everything in that 10-minute scene, so we have to wrap up this here and that there and this there, and we'll just do it in a montage.
Well,
it was like the show ended, and I keep saying the show ended, right? Because here's the thing. The montage ties up all the loose ends. Steven Universe could be over.
There is no loose end, period.
Yeah, there's essentially, like, very little places to go from here. There is
100% a movie.
Yeah, there's 100% a movie coming out. Maybe there's going to be another season. The problem is I think, like, the reason that it feels sort of rushed and that they couldn't do any of the stuff that maybe they wanted to is because maybe they didn't know if they were going to get a second season. Maybe they still don't. because the Crewniverse hasn't said anything about like usually when something like this would happen, the Crewniverse would be like, we're excited to the finale of Steven Universe. It's been a long journey. We're really happy, and they haven't said shit about
the
that.
crew of any show would say stuff like that. when
Yeah,
the show-
Cartoon Network has been fucking silent on it. So this is and it felt like a series finale. So
would it
It
have been
did.
better if there was one more episode to resolve some of that stuff, or was
Yeah,
that not
if
have
they
helped?
split-
yes,
It was a 2-parter. If they had split
Yeah.
this last episode into a 3-parter, it probably would have been a lot better. They could have
Oh,
taken
it
that
was like
montage.
a 4-parter, but yeah.
Well, they could have taken that montage and just expanded the montage into one more episode, even if it started out the same. Like, they return to Earth and all the citizens are happy, they're having a concert, and then they start
Yeah.
getting shit done. But it's
Yeah.
like the concert is used as the song for the montage, so that's the
Yeah.
only reason that.
Or they had like just like spent that whole episode like with a specific character who he had I implore you to reconsider, just like working through their fears and doubts, because there's a very specific theme that this character represents that sort of really goes through the entire show. And there was like this one side plot that I honestly didn't think that it was going to have anything to do with that theme, but in the end it really did, and it was like, wow, that one side plot that was resolved 5 seasons ago was actually really good, and I'm glad it was there.
Well, at least they made good on some of that other stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I liked about it. They made good on a lot of stuff, which was more
Well,
than
they
I
made
was
good on
expecting.
like that thing. And then there was a bunch of other, like, essentially the last 2 seasons of filler was just entirely filler, unless like
Yeah,
next
pretty
season goes in. Because like
Which you never know.
the rest of the stuff and all of the filler was resolved in the montage.
So
Yeah.
here's a question: if this was the end, would you be happy with this being the end? Like, do you want more Steven Universe at this point, or no?
I think I
No.
would. I think I would be happy with it being the end, but for different reasons than that. Like, I feel satisfied with the conclusion, even if the actual execution of it wasn't good. The
Well,
ramifications.
the thing is, the execution of it, like, almost, like, when he does the, like, I implore you to reconsider move, and all the stuff building up to that was really, really good. It was just like, it's like, okay, boom, done. And we're out.
Right.
The end. It didn't, like, it sort of had, like, this character who had, like, complex emotions and was completely on the opposite side and was, making surprisingly good points about why Steven was wrong, and then just, oh, okay, I guess you're right then, never mind.
There was a physical event that happened.
Yeah,
that-
there was a physical event, but I feel like it would take more than that realistically, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, but Steven
Yeah.
Universe has always been a little contrived anyway. But-
It's true. Yes, it was a little contrived, but okay, say this last person that they had to convince was essentially 100% convinced that their worldview was absolute. It was perfect. There was no way that it could be wrong. And then
Right.
immediately during this whole "there's no way I can be wrong" villain speech, it is being proven wrong. Like,
Yeah.
that has never happened to this character before. They have never been wrong, and now they are.
Listen, it
So-
takes a lot more than direct proof to convince someone that they're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And that's
Let's not get into
like,
politics, though.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's not even politics. That's just like, I feel like this one character who was so very ground into their beliefs that they were like they'd created something so massive based on their beliefs for fucking thousands and thousands of years.
In a way, they're not
millions
wrong.
of years.
Yeah.
In a way, to
Because-
some extent, they're not wrong. They were successful at doing it the way they've been doing it.
Oh
so-
yeah. It was just, the things that they were doing were bad.
Right.
So anyway, like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I'm kind of getting sick of Steven Universe, but not because it's good or bad. I'm just getting more and more tired of their release schedule and how they are
Yeah.
going about making the show. That it's like,
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I don't know.
okay, really what we got was, like, kind of a full season worth of filler towards the end there, right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been bad if it were like stretched over the course of a year like a normal show. The reason it was bad was because we got like 1 week worth of episodes every 6 months.
And it's like,
where the
here's
last one was the only one that mattered.
It's like, oh, here's a 6-episode mini shot of just filler again for the 3rd time in a row or something.
Yeah, so, exactly.
It's not that I don't like Steven Universe anymore. I do like it. There are things that are like messed up about that show, but like on the whole, I do enjoy it. But it's the schedule that makes it so hard to watch. Like, I think the best way to watch Steven Universe is not to be caught up with it. It's to wait till it comes out and then watch it all like in a shot. Like, I'll still probably go back and watch anything that I haven't watched. Although I think the only thing I haven't watched is this last set of episodes.
Did you see the wedding?
I saw the one where those two characters were talking to Steven in a dream or whatever it was.
Okay.
So
I caught up except for this last bit.
Yeah. So I just haven't watched these last few because it's like when you have to watch like 2 or 3 episodes and then wait 4 months or whatever for another like 2 episodes, 3 episodes. It's like dude. Yeah, I mean, I'll make time for this eventually, I guess, but I have other shit going on. Like,
it's not like you're trying to watch 2 or 3 episodes because the finale is coming out in a week.
Right. And it's like, even if you let episodes build up for you, it's still not as satisfying as like going back and watching 4 or 5 episodes of DuckTales back to back. Like, I know that we aren't caught up with DuckTales right now, but that's like sort of intentional for me because I want to let it build up so we can watch them in a like one go. And then there's other shows like Star Versus where I want to see every fucking episode as it comes out. But like this show I'm just like it's like the worst of both worlds. Like I don't have time to really invest in it like whenever it wants me to. Like I'll watch it when I feel like it, I guess. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's completely understandable.
It's the extent where I'd almost rather always get the Netflix treatment of boom 6 episodes, boom 12 episodes, see you next year,
boom the whole series or season,
the whole series, see you next year. You know what I mean? Like I'd much rather do that because then I can either watch them back to back over the course of like a day if I want to, or a week, or even like a month if I'm like really not, or if I'm really busy or something. Like I'd like having the option to do it on my own terms and having to I feel like the next best way is to get an episode every week, but every other way that I've seen is just it feels too messed up, you know? Even Gravity Falls with its like hiatuses and stuff, it made it hard to watch towards the end of that series because they kept moving when episodes were coming out. Not to mention, like, if I tried to watch it on TV, that would never fucking happen. So,
no, it'd be impossible.
So yeah, I don't know. And it makes sense the way that cartoons are made anyway, to do like 12 episodes concurrently and then release them all at once. Like just the way that animation works, it makes more sense to do it that way. Basically every animated show is made concurrently, except for probably Steven Universe, because they probably make 3 or 4 episodes at the same time instead of like a season, which is probably why it's so fucked up.
Yeah, and that's deadass why like Cartoon Network, like they have specifically said that their production is based around the idea of Steven bombs, and that's what Cartoon Network wants them to do.
Yeah. So, which it is what it is, whatever. I don't like I feel like I liked the concept of Steven bombs at one point because it was like a mini 12 episode, like a mini set of a full chunk of episodes, but like as time's gone on, it's like when they give you a full set of episodes of filler, it's really hard to care. Some of it I care more than other. Like I liked the Sadie arc. I liked that music singing Sadie arc. I thought that was interesting. But that was filler, you know what I mean? Like ultimately that probably doesn't matter, right? Even if they even if she's doing the concert in the last episode, it doesn't matter that much. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know, Steven Universe, whatever. Do you guys want to take a break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I think that's all that we have to talk about this week. But
Oh yeah.
or for in terms of stuff we've done.
Yeah.
So why don't we come back at 5:15? That's sort of a longish break, but
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
okay.
I can deal with that.
We'll be back in a little bit. Okay, we're back. So for the second half of the show, we're going to talk about video game and movie news, which there's a fair amount of, sort of, kind of.
Surprisingly.
There's stuff to talk about.
Why don't we start with movie news, though?
Okay. There's actually a lot of stuff going on with movie news, specifically because of the fact that the Oscar nominations have, in fact, been announced now.
Oh
yeah, actually,
yeah.
There's some cool here, though.
There's some stuff going on here. So one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit. Should I just like list them out, or
do it however you want?
Why don't you do notables?
Yeah, do notable ones, I guess.
Oh yeah, of course. So yeah. The big one is, of course, best movie of the year, which is Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice.
Not
These
one
are the
of
ones
these
for
really
that.
surprised me.
This may really, because this is the first ever superhero movie to be nominated for an Oscar.
You know what?
Yeah, but people were pretty much saying that Black Panther was the best superhero movie ever.
No, they weren't.
No, they said that about Logan.
Yeah,
that's true.
And Marvel and Spider-Man a little bit.
Yeah,
but
Spider-Verse specifically, yeah.
But I think that Black Panther makes sense.
Too late?
No, because it's nominated for Best Animation.
Yeah, okay.
They don't consider animated movies real movies.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they don't want to double dip it.
Maybe.
But anyway, although other things double dip all the time, so I don't know. But
yeah, like Roma, I'm pretty sure is in for Best Foreign Film.
But I feel like Black Panther, from a social awareness kind of aspect, makes sense because I think the Oscars gives a lot of brownie points to that sort of thing, and that did have kind of a social message.
Yeah. And you know what's the most surprising?
Yeah,
thing
even if
this?
it wasn't ham-fisted. If anything, that makes it better.
I also feel like this is a little bit of a like cynical because of the fact that not only they were previously going to do that thing that we talked about like months ago, where they were going to have the popular film category and they got laughed at until they didn't have that anymore. Not only because of the fact that, you know, they had like Black Panther in Best Picture and none of the other awards except for the technical stuff where the superhero movies usually go. The most surprising thing about Black Panther and this whole like sort of cynical thing is nobody is talking about it, which is what they wanted probably with this. And I don't mean like people aren't like having like a revolution about it or going crazy. Nobody's even mentioned it. Nobody is like outraged. Nobody is happy. Nobody seems to notice at all, and that's the strange.
I don't know. I've seen people talking about how Black Panther. It's cool that Black Panther is nominated for Best Picture despite being a superhero movie. I've heard rumblings of it on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've been sort of going around the film communities, and most of what people have been talking about is not so much about Black Panther. I've seen a lot of people like still really pissed that it was one of those things. It's like they knew it wasn't gonna happen, but they were really pissed about it anyway. Hereditary didn't even get like a Best Actress nod. A lot of people are surprised that First Man isn't going up for anything because 20th Century Fox put all of its support behind Bohemian Rhapsody. They pushed for Bohemian Rhapsody instead of First Man, and that's why it's in there.
You know, I know that you didn't love it personally, but I thought that movie was really fucking good. So I think that especially with how popular it's been, it's had a really long tail. Like I'm not super surprised that movie is in the Best Picture nomination. So
right,
I kind of am, especially over First Man, which was sort of a much better biopic. I've honestly, in your opinion, the movie I've seen it compared to more than any other is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Well, I don't know. You kind of the communities that you are in are a little bit more. I don't know.
Picky.
a little different than maybe kind of mainstream is, and that was such a huge mainstream success for so long. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
What's the box office total? I think it cracked like a really high number recently, didn't it?
Yeah, it was like
Oh,
a
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Another one that a lot of people are
So, I
surprised
don't
about
know.
is Widows didn't get anything. It was a Steve McQueen movie, and that man's been like an Oscar runner for a while. And the reason that it didn't get any of that is because the company that did Widows instead pushed for The Green Book, which is another movie that I've heard like kind of mixed things about, but that's been making the runs in the Oscars. And it's also a little bit surprising for Bohemian Rhapsody because of the controversy behind the director.
What happened with the director?
Oh, Bryan Singer is apparently assaulted multiple teenagers.
Oh,
I see.
yeah, that seems to be like an ongoing thing with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was like, talk back when it won some Golden Globes, like Rami Malek didn't even like mention Bryan Singer when he was like thanking everyone. This stuff like that. Anyway, best director, Alfonso Cuarón for Roma. He's probably gonna win. Yorgos Lanthimos. This is the one thing I am really excited for these is that Yorgos got into a lot of these fucking categories, which is the weirdest shit to me. I didn't think that Yorgos would ever go up for any Oscars like this. It's like saying fucking Panos Cosmatos is gonna go up for an Oscar, but here he fucking is. That man got in for like The Favorite multiple times. Spike Lee got in for Black Klansman. Adam McKay got in for Vice, and Powell Pulaski for The Cold War.
So what it is Bohemian Rhapsody cracked 200 million domestic and has another 600 million foreign, so it has like an 817 million total.
Yeah, wow.
So it's like on track to crack 1 billion maybe.
Yeah, it's made a ton of money.
Like, it's to the extent that there's like sing-along versions at the theater that I go to.
Jeez.
Like, so you can go there and you'll have I bet they have the little like bouncing dot shit going on.
That's
so I don't know.
kind of funny, actually.
So I'm not at all surprised because I've heard nothing but like praise other than from kind of you and your circles. So I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the critics were pretty hard on it too.
I haven't heard a bad word about it that didn't come out of your mouth.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Let me look at
the
Rotten Tomatoes score real quick because I feel like it wasn't amazing, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like
the top 3 reviews on Letterboxd are, quote, always fun when a poorly written script includes a scene where characters accuse each other of being bad writers, and one that starts with maybe movies were a mistake.
Yeah, so it's 61% of all critics, but 48 of top critics. So top critics don't like it, but generally critics do. So it's kind of, I don't know. It seems really mixed on the critic angle, but it has an 89% audience score. So this is one of those cases where the audiences and critics are kind of split on it. So
yeah, and mostly just because of the thing that it's a really like. The best way to call it is a reductive biopic. It's sort of like every other biopic ever. It doesn't. A lot of people who are like huge fans of Queen, I've seen like big raving like people pissed off on Letterboxd specifically who are huge fans of Queen and are like, "Fucking, he deserves better than this. This is bullshit. What the hell you got to do this to him?"
I don't know. I really like Queen, and I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Maybe what it is this is a biopic that had more mass appeal than most biopics. So if you're looking at it as a biopic, then maybe it's not a very good biopic, but as a movie, it's a more widely accessible movie. And that's probably why people are split on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about like really accessible biopics is they're really accessible. It's like if you put like a Queen, like a man who like was a huge fan of this movie and had them watch Roma, they'd be fucking out.
And that's the thing, like being an accessible movie is not bad. So the fact that
the thing is like the John Wick movies, right? They're very accessible movies. You can just jump in and watch them. But they're also very interesting movies. They sort of play with action. They build on a interesting world. They sort of grow a little bit. You know, you can be accessible and be good. It's just,
But
you know,
I think what makes I don't know. I think John Wick is like a weird case because that movie's not trying to tell that complicated a story. Like the actual like plot line is super simple. What makes that game, what elevates that movie is that the choreography, the fight choreography is top notch, and they have like lots of world building things in the background. But if you took it as just like if you cut out the world building stuff, it would be a very simple plot where a dude just runs around and kills people, and that's it. So,
yeah.
Right.
so
but then
I feel like that's a weird case. I would say something that's more similar, like superhero movies, other than like Infinity War. Like
Yeah.
most superhero movies are pretty accessible, and like as a result, people kind of sneer at them because they're sort of just.
But then you have something
pocket
like
movies.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and that's another reason a lot of people don't like a lot of superhero movies is because they're essentially continuously doing the same thing. Whereas Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is hugely accessible, but just builds on it so much and is just so wonderfully good that it sort of breaks that mold. Also, something like 8th Grade, which is very, very accessible, but also
I
does what
would
it's
not
doing
say
in a
8th
very...
grade is accessible at all. I don't
Really?
know.
Why?
I feel like it's too niche.
Did you see the movie?
No, I haven't seen it, but from what
Okay,
we've talked about it, but
anyway,
I don't know,
I
it
wouldn't
doesn't-
say that 8th Grade is terribly niche. Like, I do definitely
if-
believe that wide audiences would be able to like 8th Grade. The problem is, it just doesn't have the distribution legs.
Yeah, there's the
Um,
thing. If somebody who is somewhat into movies like Saine doesn't think it's particularly accessible without having seen it, why should somebody who hasn't seen it go out of their way to see it?
well,
That's part
here's
of the
what I'm saying.
accessibility.
As far as like, I suppose it is like, I mean, that's like distribution, not necessarily how a movie is crafted. Like that essentially would say like accessibility is just how much a movie is advertised. But it's like things like back in the 60s, something like fucking Taxi Driver was a huge success and made a bunch of money, but it is not a super accessible movie, or wouldn't be considered by a lot of people to be a super accessible movie. But back in the day, it was super popular because it was released by a big studio and had a lot of legs like that. You know?
Yeah, which is what I'm saying. That leads into the accessibility of the movie is how, like,
that is kind of a different thing, a little bit, Dalsson. Like I know that Thel and I are arguing, but I think on this point we're kind of in the same place. We just have a difference of opinion on 8th Grade in particular, but like I don't know. Honestly, this conversation sort of doesn't matter. I just think that like it's easy for a movie, especially a biopic, to be very bogged down by what it is and what it's trying to be. Like Darkest Hour was a really good biopic last year, or not last year, the year before last year. But I would not say that that is a particularly accessible movie because it's pretty heavy under history and like what like the different aspects of it. Whereas I think a movie about a rock star is certainly widely more accessible. This is probably the most accessible biopic I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that it doesn't super matter, but I think that on some level, playing to mass audiences is not necessarily a bad thing. So I don't think it should necessarily be
definitely is going to make you a lot of money.
Well, I mean more so than that. I feel like people's general enjoyment of it is different than what critics are looking for.
Right.
So independent of how much money.
I'm saying it's like you can do both. You can please audiences and have a good movie.
But not many biopics have, though. That's what I mean. Like there's really not many biopics that are accessible. Period.
Right.
So even First Man is less accessible. So
I don't know. First Man was almost like mostly action. Even if it wasn't like just murder action. It was like a very, very tense.
Well, the presence of action isn't necessarily.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on though, because
Okay.
we talked about something completely removed from what we were talking about for kind of a while there. So
Yeah, wasn't it supposed to be Oscar nominations?
Oh yeah, well, but we were actually specifically talking about one Oscar nomination.
yeah, we're talking
first
about
of all-
Bohemian Rhapsody. I guess that's
Yeah.
true.
Excuse me. That one actually did come out. Anyway, First Reform did get in for Best Original Screenplay, and people are a little bit surprised that it didn't get in for anything else. There's a bunch of stuff that's got in for Best Adapted Screenplay, which it's kind of surprising that Black Panther didn't get in for that, because, like, Logan got in for that last year.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for, like, especially, like, if it's going for Best Movie, I'm
come
surprised
on.
that it didn't come up for that.
What's happening?
Fucking, I opened this article and then it put a video in the corner, and then I closed the video and then I scrolled down and it started playing again. Like,
Yeah.
I hate auto. Like, why do people put auto playing videos in their websites? It is so
Absolutely
annoying.
no idea. It is the worst shit.
Yeah, really.
Like, no, I don't think anyone ever wants those. So
Yeah.
I've never
much.
heard someone say, "Yeah, I like to watch those." Like, so what are they doing? then?
In fact, the only stuff I've heard about those is that's the worst fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only heard people complain about that.
Yeah. Best animated feature. This is the one we're all really excited for because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the most deserving of this by far. Though Isle of Dogs is also a good contender for this. But it very well,
I would
might
not-
go to Ralph Breaks the Internet or Incredibles 2.
I would not be upset if it went to Isle of Dogs, though I think that
Yeah.
Spider-Man should win.
Yeah.
What did you say about Ralph Breaks the Internet and Incredibles 2?
It's
They might win because they are Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, though, Sony is big enough that people have watched it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of the problem with the animation award for Oscars noms is too many of these movies are from a distribution standpoint not accessible, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like all of these movies, well, not Isle of Dogs. Maybe, well, I don't know, whatever. Not Isle of Dogs, but every other movie on this list are like accessible, like distribution wise. So I think that the Marvel movie or the Spider-Verse movie has a good chance just because, you know, Oscar judges didn't have to go out of their way to watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas Isle of Dogs, totally, you would have to have gone out of your way to watch it.
Yeah.
I just think that Isle of Dogs is good enough that that maybe it will get support, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah. The only problem is a couple of years ago, we've seen this before. There was a Charlie Kaufman movie, Anomalisa, which was a fucking fantastic movie and blew everyone away when it came out and was nominated for Best Animated Picture because it was made in stop motion and it was completely overlooked by the Oscars.
Yep.
As they
Yeah.
Because nobody saw it.
Yeah, well, none of the Oscars watchers saw it.
Well, I've never heard of it, so.
I haven't heard of it either, honestly.
Although that was before I was paying as much attention to this stuff
Yeah.
as I do
It was like
now.
a
So
couple of years ago? It was a few years ago.
yeah. And
Anyway,
I mean,
that's
even
what-
among us, like when it comes to distribution, we're really held back by what we have available
Yeah.
distribution wise. I have the most access to that stuff just because I live in the largest city of the three of us. So
Yeah, I usually have to wait till stuff goes on like digital download or ends up in a red box before I can even like think about seeing it. Which is why it
Yeah.
took me so long to see the new Suspiria movie.
Yeah.
There's like one theater that plays some of the stuff around here, and I'd have to go into fucking Portland to do that, and that's like an hour drive. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's about it for the Oscars. Another thing that happened was the SAG Awards. The Screen Actors Guilds Awards, which Black Panther actually did win some stuff there. It won kind of one of the big ones. It was like thank you for playing the video. We were just talking about how that was the worst thing.
yeah, that was the one that I had opened.
Yeah.
Where are you coming from, though?
I just muted the tab.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that too. There it is. Anyway, sorry about that.
Hey, at least on yours, it doesn't play through the stream. Like, I have music that's going to play in the video, like the VOD now.
Oh, that's
so.
the worst.
I know.
Well, now all of you know exactly what that music is. Ew.
Yeah.
Anyway, outstanding performance by it was like the outstanding performance by like a group or
yeah,
like
by the whole cast.
Yeah, by the whole cast. Black Panther won, which was okay, and that gives it some legs to walk on for Best Picture. It's a little bit, but yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Male Actor.
Yeah, and it's like Rami Malek again was out of all of the things that I didn't like, Rami Malek was not one of them.
Yeah, but it was not my favorite thing.
Yeah. I would say I haven't seen A Star Is Born or Vice. Oh wait, I haven't seen most of these. The only ones I've seen is Bohemian Rhapsody and Black Klansman. So
I've seen Crazy Rich Asian.
Oh, okay. I meant like performance by like a male leading actor.
Oh, male.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen these either.
Yeah. Man, Mary Poppins Return was a massive flop.
Ooh, best performance by a female actor in supporting role was Emily Blunt in A Quiet Place.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Which, I mean, damn. That's nice, but everyone is still pretty up in arms that Hereditary didn't get anything for... Oh, gosh, what was the actress's name who did that? She did a fucking fantastic job. Like, the best acting job probably this year. It was great shit.
Black Panther also won stunt ensembles.
Oh, yeah, and agreed. Understandable. Yeah,
no one's really that surprised,
Yeah, I mean, out of all of the ones that were
although Mission Impossible Fallout, though.
Oh, fuck, you're right. Yeah. Oh, maybe that one. Well,
there's three superhero movies: The Ballad of Buster Scruggs and Mission Impossible.
The Ballad of Buster fucking Scruggs was great.
You know what?
Category again?
That was stunts.
Yeah, best stunt ensemble. But in fairness, Black Panther probably had bigger stunts than Fallout.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible Fallout. Whereas Mission Impossible Fallout had, other than, like, the jumping over roofs and stuff, it was... Well, I guess it had a lot of, like...
The helicopter scene, but, I'm pretty sure they did actually jump out of an airplane.
Yeah, but Black Panther also had that motorcycle scene. The, like, motorcycle chase stuff. So, I don't know, like, I could see it either way, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it's like, one of the big things about the Mission Impossible movies is like the big set pieces where Tom Cruise does his own stunts.
Yeah,
and that might be why Black Panther won, because like from like a stuntman's perspective, the Mission Impossible movies aren't super good because they don't hire them.
Oh yeah. Right. Also, this says stunt ensemble. It doesn't say
and
stunts,
like Tom Cruise is the only one doing it, so that's probably why.
Yeah, maybe that makes sense.
The stunt actors union is a big part of Hollywood. Like they're not a small underrepresented people. Well, they may be a little underrepresented, but
Yeah.
Also television nominees, but
oh yeah,
it looks like everything went to Marvelous Miss Maisel. That's
okay.
So I don't know.
I've never even heard anything about that.
But it won like 4 or 5 things.
Yeah.
It won outstanding performance by ensemble. It won best male actor. It won female actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently the acting's really good.
Okay, well, I mean, shit then.
Because it won for best male, best female, and best ensemble. So
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right.
All right, now to get on to like the news, more news. One thing I want to mention is that Sundance is in full swing, and we'll probably get more about that next week because it is currently in swing. People are currently watching, and a couple of reviews are coming out, but we'll see more big stuff like distribution rights and what movies to be looking out for this year, probably within the next couple of weeks. So yeah.
All right.
Our first piece of like news, it's not big news, but Boots Riley's writing a new movie. He's the man who directed Sorry to Bother You, and I'm excited to see whatever the fuck he could come up with next, because damn.
Yeah.
The next one is for Black History Month. On Friday, there are going to be screenings for Black Panther, and some of them are going to be free.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
And
free
the next
screenings of
one,
Black Panther.
yeah, the free screenings of Black Panther. Catch that for Black History Month. The next is Universal's The Invisible Man found a director. Now, I'm pretty sure this is not necessarily going to be part of the Dark Universe.
Didn't they like give up on that
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
think
this is going to be
twice?
yes.
They were probably already working on it, but or not working on it, but like looking,
Yeah.
like
They had, like,
shopping around
multiple
for it. And then it's
Yeah, they
like
had a
this
couple of
justice
scripts,
or
yeah.
this dark stuff kind of went through, and they were like, "Well, we're still working on this film. We might as well still do it. Just even if it's not a cinematic universe thing, we might as well just still do it."
Yeah.
Originally, they were going to have for the cinematic universe, they were going to have Johnny Depp play the Invisible Man, and
Oh,
well, anyway, about it, its new director is probably going to take it into a new direction, and we'll have to figure out more about that. The Invisible Man is deadass my favorite Universal monster. I'm actually kind of excited for this, possibly because I mean horror movies have been getting good. Who
It's
knows?
true.
It could be good. Just rolling the fucking dice on it, but
yeah.
so yeah, that's about it. Oh wait, no. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Dalsson posted one. New She-Ra's going to get a new season, which isn't
Oh,
super
yeah.
surprising. It was pretty popular.
Yeah,
I
I
liked
just
it.
wanted to mention that. I thought it was cool.
Have you guys
She
watched
lost
it yet?
We haven't.
we still
watched it
haven't.
yet, no.
We watched like the first 2 episodes of Punisher, and a little bit of that got in the video, but we don't really have like an opinion on it yet. Except the action scenes are still good.
As expected of a Punisher series.
I rewatched season 1, and I actually really like that one.
Oh yeah,
Like of the Marvel stuff, because I've been watching them all basically from start to finish, and
Mhm.
of the Marvel ones, that one feels the most different, and I like it a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah. I really did like the Punisher the first season, and I hope that this one continues that, but I don't know because I haven't seen any of it aside from like the first 2 or 3 episodes. So
right,
Yeah.
I think that's about it for movie news.
All right. Game news.
Game news.
Where are we starting on this one?
the top. How about that? Last week. So let's talk about this Fallout thing first.
Oh, yes.
Last week, we talked about how there was rumors and like some code that maybe people are thinking that Fallout might go free to play.
Yeah.
Bethesda put out an official announcement saying no, we're not.
Essentially, yes. It wasn't like they
Yeah.
made a big announcement out of it. Somebody tweeted at them and said, if Fallout 76 goes free to play, I want my money back. Period. Right?
Yeah.
And they said there is no truth to this rumor that it's going free to play.
Even if it went free to play, maybe a year would be better.
Yeah.
You know, just to be, for those people who bought it early. But like, I don't know. Honestly, I would not be upset if it went free to play. Personally,
Yeah.
I don't
I don't
remember
know.
if I bought it or Dalsson did, but whoever bought it, I'd be fine.
I don't know if excuse me. After it seemed to have a lot of bad will, so I don't know how good it would do with free to play. It might end up being like sort of a Battleborn situation, though. The free to play at Battleborn was handled in a really dumb, stupid.
Well,
idiot
Battleborn
way.
was kind of a shitty game,
Yeah.
and the bad will around Battleborn was how shitty the game was. And a lot of the bad will around Fallout 76 is like things surrounding it, and then people nitpick into the actual game itself.
I don't know. A lot of people were really negative on the game.
Yeah, but
after
I think
all of that bad shit about it, like
No.
surrounding the
Like
game,
before the
so-
bad shit even started.
Well, that's impossible because the bad shit started before the game went into its first beta.
Right.
So
I think that it's a little bit of both. I think that a lot of people didn't like it for various reasons, but I
Yeah, it was
also
like,
personally
Rock Paper
think.
Shotgun refused to review it because they refused to play any more of it.
But I also think that a lot of the criticisms of that game were unfair. because I think that
They
a lot
were
of the people.
criticisms that people might give to other games that
Yeah.
didn't already have.
That being said, like, don't get me wrong, that game fucked some shit up a lot. Like, I'm not whole cloth defending it. It did fuck shit up. That being said, I also think people were harder on it than they probably could have been.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It was kind of a best of both worlds situation, and like with I think if it went free to play, a lot of people would enjoy it. But I don't know. It's like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that the problem with Battleborn, that was sort of a different issue in that game was very complex and hard to play anyway. That it like got the worst of both ends in that it was, when it first came out, it cost money, and the free to play, it was very complicated to actually learn how to play and difficult to learn.
And also, the free to play was like sort of treated it as a demo because the publisher didn't want it to go free to play.
They called it a demo, but it worked basically
yeah.
like League of Legends anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that it, like, by the time that happened for Battleborn, it was like 2 years out. It was too little too late. Like, that game was already dead, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And making it free to play, like, you might get a small spike, but it was still as complicated as it always was, and it just wasn't. A lot of the interesting content was locked, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff I cared the most about, like the story stuff, was locked. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Battleborn had a lot of problems. Fallout, also has a lot of problems, but I think that a lot of people, it was so negative around that game that a lot of people who probably would have enjoyed it didn't even try it. So,
Yeah.
But I think that there are a lot of people who would enjoy Fallout 76 if they tried it, because honestly, it's not that much worse than Fallout 4. It's just like, from a story perspective, it is, but, I think that a lot of people...
I don't know, I think
Fallout
the story of Fallout 4 is worse because of the stuff it shoehorns you into, whereas this story is just...
Yeah, this game is better for role-playing if you want to do that, but... I don't know. It's complicated, but people want NPCs, I guess, way more than I thought they did. So whatever.
I think the problem is agency.
No. Like,
do you have much agency on how the story plays out?
No, you have none. Because
yeah. In Fallout 2, in Fallout 4, you actually do have some agency on how the story plays out. It's not good agency. It's very, very linear agency, but it's agency.
I'd rather a game be linear and deliver me a story like a book than I would to have choices that don't matter and are just superficial for...
Well, the choices in Fallout 4 weren't necessarily superficial, especially with the faction stuff.
No, everything was superficial in that game because you literally couldn't affect anything. Everything was just... Like, there was no dialogue trees at all. Like,
the problem with Fallout 4 is that pretty much everything led to, you find your son, he's dying. You can kill him, or he'll die anyway. It doesn't matter. The only real choice you get in Fallout 4 is which faction to join. And then that affects the ending.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Because
other
than that, you're a
something.
distressed dad who is trying to find his baby.
Yeah, and Fallout 4 was definitely the worst about it, but again, that is still something.
But Fallout 76, the story, you don't directly affect it, but it's kind of backdrop. It's set dressing. Like, it's,
a story that
which is
no
kind of the problem with the,
but I don't think
Fallout game.
I don't know that it's that bad,
though. No agency in is not a bad thing. If it were a bad thing, people wouldn't read books or watch movies anymore.
Oh, no, definitely. It's not necessarily a bad thing at all. I never really found, like, the writing in the Fallout 76 to be particularly
You didn't
good.
get not far enough into any of the writing. Like, Thel, you played for less time than I did, and like, in the beta, and you didn't even go towards the story. So, like, I'm not like, I'm not saying all of your opinions are wrong about it, but, like, I don't think you personally saw enough of the story to make direct judgments yourself. So,
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
We
whatever
went
the
through
case,
a-
man,
we
how
went
do
through
we
a
all...
lot of quests that we had fun with, you know?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of stuff that I enjoy in that game, and there's a lot of things that are interesting, and, like, sure, you're always viewing everything from an outside perspective, but it's not like you don't do things in that game. There are, like, quest lines and stuff. There are stories. There, like, it's just you're discovering. You're always discovering what other people are doing, and it's like, I guess people don't like that, and that's fine. But I think that the talk around the game has been more negative than, or has been so negative that I think a lot of people who didn't try it because it was so negative would have liked it. But it's just been such a black mark that nobody wants to even give it a chance, or even really engage with it. You are not the only person, Thel, that I've seen who started the game and walked in a completely different direction, and it completely ignored any of the quest lines.
I did do the quest lines at the second time after the game started.
Yeah, when I was playing with you, we did a little bit of the quest lines, but
and even after that, when I was playing with Dalsson a little bit after I had to restart the game.
Well, either way, like, you have to do some of those beginning things to, like, really start to get into any of it, like, to open up quests in other places. Right. And I think a lot of people who tried that game walked in a random direction and, like, didn't discover any of that. You know, which, in fairness, is just bad design, but, like, I think that it's... I don't know. I think that it's more than just the writing is bad, you know?
Right. No, I mean, there's a lot more problems with Fallout 76 than the writings. I think the writing is actually one of the stronger points compared to other stuff that people have said that they have issues with.
Yeah. Were you gonna say something else before you got caught up?
No, kind of just one of those, like, one of the quests that we found, you and I, Saine, playing together, was this quest where you enter a old mining facility and you essentially have to do a computerized test to enter the corporate chain so that you can get a key card to find out what's going on, and then essentially the mining robot asks you to help it, and then you wind up helping the mining robot get back to the surface. Like, it's not like there's no interaction with other NPCs, there's just no other humans.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like,
weird.
Human NPCs, or, like, the most, in every fantasy game that has non-human races, the human race is always, like, 50% of the player base or something, at least. So like Guild Wars, I think 50% of players of Guild Wars are humans. So, you know, I guess people just really care about humans, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's like the last thing I'm interested in you know, like, space games and stuff is the humans. I'm all about the aliens, but I'm not most people.
Yeah.
It makes sense in retrospect that people would be upset that there's no NPCs. No human NPCs.
Right.
So, Thel, the Cyberpunk 2077 head writer story.
Oh, yeah. So, the head writer for, that worked at CD Projekt Red on Cyberpunk 2077 has left for Blizzard. This probably just means that the writing on Cyberpunk 2077 is done, or has been done. And he's getting a new job at Blizzard, which, I mean, if they can fix some of the writing in Blizzard, then good. But a lot of the other turns that Blizzard has taken.
Who knows even what they're talking about? Like, do we know what, like, where at Blizzard he's going? Because who knows?
Is he going to? Is he joining the Heroes of the Storm writing team? Like...
no. In fact, what it's assumed is Blizzard apparently has a bunch of projects in the background, and that he's going to go to one of them.
Well, yeah, good. Maybe the next game they release won't be a mess of a story.
Maybe.
Diablo.
Maybe.
They're putting him to work on Diablo Immortal.
Shit.
What if Diablo
Man's gonna go, I worked on The Witcher 3, I don't need this shit!
What if they reverse
Blizzard
port
Remake?
Diablo to console or something?
Jesus.
Mm.
I'm like about to sneeze, but I can't. Ugh.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Diablo 1 HD remake. You're just playing in third person now.
Oh god, that'd be kind of cool.
The butcher's just constantly
The
running
butcher
around
follows
hunting
you the entire game.
Think about like what if you played like a Diablo game, except it was like like from the perspective of like God of War or like one of those games, and it was still like a looter.
I'm sure they
looter
have
thing,
those.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Well, no, I don't think there is like a melee combat focused Diablo-esque game.
Yeah, I guess not really. Hellgate
I think
London.
the closest thing is Borderlands.
Probably, yeah.
Hellgate London.
No,
Hellgate
that was
London
still
had a lot of melee
isometric, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, Hellgate London was definitely third person. In fact, it was first person. I believe that it had third person melee combat, and you could switch to first person if you were using a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, wait. It was both. It was both. It was isometric. It was isometric unless you had a gun.
I see. Okay. Interesting.
Or no, I guess it was third person. But it looks
Yeah.
similar to
Yeah, that's what I
isometric
thought.
anyway.
Yeah, it was like it was like semi-isometric third person. It was
Right.
like 2.5 kind of thing.
Yeah. Although that game was bad for other reasons, and also it wasn't made by it wasn't made by. It was half of the Diablo team or something, and apparently
Yeah,
not the good half.
Half that didn't do Torchlight.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was way
didn't
before.
like
it could have been.
Torchlight, though.
It
Yeah,
could have
that
been the
is
same
true.
devs for all I know. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
Let's talk about Subnautica.
Okay, so Subnautica in the works has had a standalone expansion pack called Below Zero for a long time. So I shouldn't say Subnautica. Unknown Worlds Entertainment has had this in the works for a long time. It's called Subnautica Below Zero, and essentially the story takes place years and years after the events of the original game, and you are a scientist who is coming back to study the planet 4546b. So it's an interesting new perspective, because in the original Subnautica you were crash landed there. You were trying to survive and find a way off the planet, whereas in this one it's assumed that you are establishing a research center. There will be a safe place for you to go always, and you can leave whenever you want. It changes the tension a little bit. But in any case, the big news about this is that the early access version of the game is going to be available as of Wednesday. So if you're watching it live, it'll be in 2 days, and if you're watching pre-recorded, it's out now. Go and check it out.
All right.
If you care about
In
Subnautica,
before it just sucks and is the worst.
I don't think it could be.
Yeah.
I don't think it could be bad, just because it's
I'm
already
probably
building
going
on
to-
good stuff. So the worst it could be is like disappointing at
Yeah,
worst.
exactly. I'm probably going to get buy into the early access. I bought into the early access of Subnautica, like the original release of Subnautica, rather late. But I'm probably going to buy into early access really early on in this one, because early access Subnautica was like a trash fire, essentially. They were basically building like the assets for the game while it was in early access. Whereas now they kind of have all of the assets and they just have to build the story.
Yeah, I feel like the best place to get in on early access, if you like games that update over time, the best place to get in is when a game is feature complete but not yet content complete, because
exactly
then they're adding content over time that you get to re-experience, but you can actually play the game.
Right.
That's why I got into early access for Slay the Spire, because it was just not content complete yet.
Right.
And even like Streets of Rogue, where they are adding some feature stuff, it's mostly just content that they're building out. So, and I like living, developing games as opposed to, like, as much as people want to shit on like games as a service, that I actually like that model, because I like engaging with something that feels like it's changing over time instead of just being static.
One of the things that I liked about my personal experience with Subnautica was that there was constantly more and more content coming out. They were slowly building more and more bits of the story. They were allowing you to go deeper as time went on, and that wasn't a consequence of how they wanted to release the game. That was just a consequence of being in early access.
Yeah.
What that allowed me to do was kind of get over being a pussy slowly, you know? Like, oh well, I have been to the Aurora the last time it updated and I played it. So now I'm not really afraid of the Reaper that creeps around the Aurora and is trying to kill me. I've seen him, I know where he goes, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. But this new zone they added with a new Leviathan class life form is still terrifying to me, and I'm gonna have to work my way up to that. But oh, 2 updates later, you have to go right past that fucking new Leviathan. I'm glad that I've had a couple of months to work up the bravery to do it. So that kind of made Subnautica a unique experience for a lot of people, I think.
Real quick, Path of Exile is cutting support for XP Vista and DirectX 9.
Ah, yes. I didn't even feel that was worth mentioning, but it is happening.
It's not a topic, but I just scrolled past it, and I think that maybe someone might care, so I said it.
Yeah. So if you're playing Path of Exile on XP or Vista,
don't.
You probably can keep going fine for a while, honestly, but they're not going to care anymore.
Well, if they're not supporting DirectX 9, they might lock you out. I'm not sure.
That's true, yeah.
Anyway, Metroid Prime 4 is being delayed.
Hella delayed.
Yeah, they are starting from scratch.
Yeah, but I feel like when that game was announced, I didn't expect them to even have started on it yet.
Yeah,
so this is just being like me hearing about this. I'm just going, okay, you could have just not told anyone. Well, I guess you could have just delayed. Well, I don't know. I mean, they're delaying it one way or the other, I guess, because they did. Did they give a year even before?
No.
Yeah, so
they didn't give you anything.
So I feel like they could have just not said anything. But
yeah,
they could have. But this is one of the things where it's like, I'm the reason there's not a lot of outrage about this is because they were just being transparent, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, they were being completely transparent about it, and there's no crazy.
Like, hey, it didn't live up to our quality standards, so we're just going to start from scratch. Make it live up to our quality
changing
standards.
The developer, and we're going to scrap everything.
Yeah, they're changing
Nintendo's
really good.
previous games.
And they were changing the developer back to Retro, who is the original developers of Metroid.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
which is just great.
Or Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, which is cool because I think they've been in I think Retro's been in a weird limbo where they haven't really been doing anything interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to look up what they've done recently. Oh well. It is impossible to find a retro game developer. Oh, here we go. Retro Studio.
Oh yeah.
Here we go. Oh, the last thing they did was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, so that makes sense.
Yeah, they've been working with Nintendo on all the Donkey Kong countries, which are apparently really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was only Donkey Kong Returns 3D, which is like a remake for the 3DS, and then Tropical Freeze, which was a good game, and that was like an actual full game. But other than that, there hasn't been a ton of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But what was it? I just every time I think about Retro, I think about how they started and where their previous CEO and founder has gone. By which I mean the wind.
I see.
The previous, if you guys don't know, and this is almost completely off topic, there was this guy who was a gigantic dickbag douche nozzle, is the best way to describe this human being, who was fired from Acclaim, created his own studio, called it Retro Studios, sniped people off from Acclaim, and stole them for his game studio. We're going to work on some video games for the GameCube, because they have a development kit. We're going to do that. And he was essentially a giant dumbass asshole who wanted to, like, hide all of the stuff he was doing from Nintendo. Nintendo showed up and were like, this is all terrible. Redo it. He did it, but then Nintendo found out that he was running a softcore porn website on their dime, so they fired him.
Understandable.
As one does.
He then made a terrible game called The Guy Game, which was
that was him?
The fucking guy?
Yeah, that was the guy who founded fucking Retro Studio.
Dude, The Guy Game got pulled from shelves because it had a underage model.
Because it was by legal technicality, child pornography.
Jesus.
God, I can't think of Retro Studios without thinking about that. That was the guy who founded Retro Studios. They went on to do some great shit. I'm glad they dumped his ass. Good work, Miyamoto. The man doesn't even, exist anymore.
Anyway.
Well, that's a crazy fucking story that I did not know, and I hope that people learned from that.
Learn from your mistakes. Don't be a giant douche nozzle, just in general.
Do you remember that? Yeah. Okay, I have another news that's not in here yet, so I'm gonna...
Oh, no.
Just real quick.
Okay.
Okay, do you remember that guy who made the Dark Souls mod for the original Dark Souls that made that game playable and stuff?
Yes.
His name was Durante.
Okay.
He is opening a PC porting studio.
Oh, nice.
So now he's going to be officially porting games for the PC.
That's pretty cool.
Considering he's been kicking around fixing other games' ports forever.
Yeah, seriously, that's some good credentials, and he was basically doing it as a hobby before.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. That's just a minor piece of news that I thought was fun to touch on.
Yeah, and I'm happy that he's doing it.
Okay, so time to talk about this ongoing Epic Game Store news.
Oh boy.
So it looks like Metro Exodus is the next game that has been pulled from Steam to only release on the Epic Game Store.
This might give it a little bit of legs.
Yeah.
Because the Metro series is super popular, and this is I suppose almost a AAA game from a not Epic studio that's doing it. I do really like Epic Game Store's policies and stuff. I feel like they treat developers better than Steam does, just enough.
I don't know that they necessarily do. It's just that they charge less for giving less services.
Yeah.
Right.
Part of the reason why Steam does take the cut it does, probably, is because it also sets up a forum. It sets up moderation tools. It has it has
a lot going on for
they
it.
do chat. They do news. They basically are a news bulletin website as well. Steam does a lot of things that other people don't. So it makes sense that maybe their cut is bigger than Epic, who already has gone on record saying, yeah, we're not gonna do a lot of that stuff. All we're doing is having a store where you can or you can pay. And so an update for this Exodus story is it's going to be a yearly exclusive on Epic. So the first year will be on Epic, and then a year later it'll be on Steam. So that's a nice half measure, at least, for the people who would really just prefer to have everything on Steam.
Yeah.
So
I can sort of understand that. A lot of people are a little bit pissed off about this, mostly because of that reason. It's understandable, Yeah.
So I don't know. Metro is kind of hedging their bets on this, but
yeah,
I don't know. I feel conflicted about it.
Yeah, I feel like Metro can probably pull it off.
I think Metro can survive well enough based on its brand.
Yeah, that's what I'm. That's exactly what I meant. Thank you, Dalsson.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it'll kill them, but we might. They might actually release it sooner, depending on how it does on Epic. It's really hard to start a new store and be competitive enough for the people buying. It's competitive. It's competitive for developers, sure, but for it takes a lot to pull people who have invested a lot into Steam to want to have a second launcher specifically for these games or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's one thing for it to be Blizzard, because at least Blizzard, it's all Blizzard games, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a second store, then suddenly it's taking up like, oh shit, do I have this game on Steam or do I have this game on Epic? Do I have this game on Discord or do I have this game on Steam? Like, so
especially if they're going up against such like Steam is kind of a titan, you know? It's an institution.
Yeah.
Steam is how you do it.
Exactly.
Right. But at the same time, if they do get traction, though, this does keep Steam healthy.
Yeah, and getting exclusives like that is a really good way to gain traction if you get the right things. And like I said, Metro can survive on its own brand name, so people I'm sure there are people who will buy Metro on the Epic Store. You know, there's plenty of people who will do it. So
yeah, I don't know.
It's.
I never thought of I never thought as Metro as being a huge, big profile thing, but.
Oh yeah, but I'm sure that there are people who really love the game. Like it's enough that it's not going to get people to switch off of Steam, but it will get people interested in Epic Store.
Yeah, it's kind of a death by a thousand cuts thing. I think the thing is Steam is never. No one's ever going to 100% switch away from Steam just because you can't.
No, for sure.
So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm very conflicted about it, because on one hand, it is healthy for Steam, but I personally would prefer to have everything on Steam, so, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know, I'm almost more looking forward to where this story goes than I am the actual, like, you know, like, the actual,
You're looking forward to seeing where the story goes rather than what actually happens.
Than, like, being part of the consumer base. I'm more looking forward to just sitting back and being like, I wonder how this will play out in grand scheme.
Yeah. Because I think, honestly, people have the Epic Games Store on their computer not because they want to buy, and they want another store to buy shit on. It's because they want to play Fortnite.
Yeah, they want to play
Fortnite.
Fortnite.
I think that a lot of people... I think that Epic might slightly be overestimating how many people they have that just play Fortnite and nothing else. Because just like Minecraft, there are certain games that attract non-gamers.
Yeah.
And then that's the only thing they play, because they don't care about video games, they care about this game. So, So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
There's more Fallout news that I forgot to touch on.
Okay.
What is this survival thing, Dalsson? I didn't actually read this article.
Okay, so essentially, they are introducing a new game mode to Fallout 76 called Survival Mode.
It's a PvP mode.
Essentially the same game, but it's PvP mode. They're basically introducing PvP servers into the game, where PvP is always on. There's no option to disable it. And more importantly, one of the big issues with that game's PvP, because I did play around with it a little bit, is that you two, the two of you get into a fight, right? And then say you kill this guy that you're fighting, and his recourse is to either spawn nearby and lose some caps, or spawn somewhere else and lose some caps. So what he's gonna do is spawn nearby, come back, and try to kill you while you're trying to heal up from the fight you just had, and then he kills you, and you can just respawn nearby with free PvP on him.
Yeah.
So this way, in this new game mode, essentially new set of servers, PvP will always be on for everybody. There's no like reduced damage dual start thing. It's just a pure PvP system.
And then it forces you to respawn either at your camp or Vault 76, not just wherever.
Yeah, you can't spawn nearby to the person who just killed you and just kill them back to get your shit back.
But also section off in it to its own mode, which I think is a good idea, because I think a lot of people didn't really want to engage with the PvP anyway, so...
See, here's the interesting thing, is that now people are bitching and complaining about this decision, but this is what people have been asking for since Fallout 76 came out.
Since it was announced.
Think that this just goes to show you stuff. In that... people are bitching about Fallout 76 because of Fallout 76 at this point. Like, people have been asking for this feature, they implement this feature, and people are bitching about micro problems that they foresee with this feature that they haven't even experienced yet.
Yeah.
And
it is.
again,
I mean,
Fallout 76 has its problems, but if they're working to actively fix it with solutions like these,
I think a lot of people are just being angry for the sake of being angry, but like I don't know. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
yeah. But I think it's good that they're trying to fix the issues. They're listening to player feedback and trying to fix the issues that they can, you know? I hope that this winds up going, like, not this particular thing, but if they continue on this pattern of listening to player feedback and fixing it, it goes to restore some of the goodwill that Bethesda has, because I don't hate the studio. I hate the things the studio has been doing, you know?
I like that they're giving money to it and letting them do whatever they want.
Yeah,
That was a good
I think
decision.
Bethesda as a whole is pretty good, but I think they bungled this up a little bit. And it's like they made a lot of mistakes, but I don't think that as a whole I don't hate Bethesda, so.
They make a lot of bad decisions, it seems, specifically when it comes to Fallout, you know?
Yeah.
Like, denying Obsidian their fucking check over, like, 1 point, and, like, that was the first one, and then every
Fallout
decision...
4 was kind of...
Fallout 4's, like, story. They made a lot of good game design decisions in Fallout 4, but they bungled a lot of other things.
And I think a lot of... say what you will about, like, Fallout 76, but I think there are really good nuggets in there. Yeah, like, I really love how they changed the modification system in that game. That is honestly my favorite thing about the game, is how the guns work. Like, how you build your guns. So
yeah, it's what people... It's essentially... They stuck to their theme. The one of the biggest mods for Fallout 4 was an expanded weapon modification system that basically would work the weapons mods from the ground up, and they kind of added it to 76. So
yeah, and I feel like it still wasn't as good as this one. So
yeah,
just because of the inherent problems with the gun system in Fallout 4 anyway.
Yeah, it's modding as opposed to creating the system from the ground up.
So what's this Nintendo eShop update thing?
Oh yes, Nintendo eShop has just added Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. It's essentially a new... I don't know if it's new, but it is... They've added a No More Heroes game to the Nintendo eShop. Now, what I find interesting about this, and this leads to some completely different topic, but I have a very strange feeling, in light of this and one other thing, that Travis Touchdown is going to be one of the DLC characters for Super Smash Bros.
He is, or you think he is?
I'm 99% certain he is. In light of a No More Heroes game coming to the Nintendo eShop recently, and the fact that the No More Heroes Twitter posted a tweet, which I think I found out about today when Thel told me after posting this article. They posted a tweet that said
it wasn't
something...
the No More. It wasn't the No More Heroes one. I'm pretty sure it was Bandai Namco.
Right. Okay.
Who I'm pretty sure published it. Excuse me. At some point, they posted a tweet that says, "We're ready for a smashing good time," and then deleted it.
Right. So they probably were kind of trying to tell people that Travis Touchdown was going to be a DLC character in Smash, and they had to delete it because Sakurai doesn't want any other characters leaked after fucking the Game Awards.
I was a little surprised you had posted this because I had heard about this 2 weeks ago. Or this article was posted on the 17th. This game, we've known about this game, but
yeah,
I guess the news is actually the Smash stuff, which is why I was not sure.
Yeah, I posted the article to remind me to talk about this potential Smash stuff more so than the actual No More Heroes game. Yeah. And, Travis Touchdown being it would be so easy, Sakurai could go, "Yo, can I get Travis Touchdown?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, sure." Because I mean, this week, or maybe 2 weeks ago at most, they collaborated with Let It Die, a small niche little indie game. And that was Let It Die's big No More Heroes collaboration. You think they wouldn't want to collaborate with Smash?
That game feels like it should be in the No More Heroes universe, though.
Yeah,
Kind of. Yeah, that's understandable. But like,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like...
But that's what I'm saying. If they're collaborating with a small company like Gung Ho, why would they say no to Nintendo?
I feel... Okay. Maybe this
Could
is
be
just...
Dig Dug, though.
Maybe this is just because... Well, they already have Pac-Man. They wouldn't do Dig Dug.
Would they?
They already said that they wouldn't do... I don't know. They said something along the lines of it was the things that have never been in Smash, and I think Dig Dug has like stickers and shit, so...
Yeah,
and
series that have never been in Smash, and No More Hero, that's another thing. Like, the DLC characters are supposed to be from new IPs that have not been in Smash. No More Heroes is definitely one of those, and No More Heroes is one that people have been asking for quite a long time.
Have they?
Like, yeah, I mean, since Smash 4 at least, you know, like, the big ones you saw were K. Rool and Ridley, who both made it into Smash Ultimate. No More Heroes,
never heard.
Travis Touchdown was another one.
I guess personally I'd never heard of that, but whatever. I guess maybe this is how other people felt when they announced Joker from Persona 5. I have like such no interest in this, but
well,
it's probably just because I haven't played any of the No More Heroes games. So.
Well, I've never really played No More Heroes, but I know a decent enough amount about it to think, you know, I think Travis Touchdown would be a really good fit. It's the same thing as adding Bayonetta, essentially. You know, it's got that style of gameplay to the No More Heroes games. Not exactly.
Well, the first one is No More Heroes is a spectacle fighter. The Travis Touchdown Strikes Again, this new game, is not, but it's more like a weird 6-game vignette game or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's it for us this week, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, today, Monday, Thel just released a Hollow Knight video.
Yep.
You want to talk about
Something
that for
out there now.
Yep. So go watch that. It's probably really good. I haven't watched it yet because I didn't realize that it was coming out today, but, you know.
There we go, yeah. Understandable.
Go ahead and go watch that. Should be all fun. I think that's it, right? Do we have any other announcements?
I'm thinking I might make, like, there was one specific thing, right? It was going to be like an end joke at the end of the Hollow Knight video, and I didn't make it. Because I felt like almost that it would be too self-indulgent, or that it would be, like it didn't belong in the video. I might make it its own, like, little separate video. It's gonna be, like, 20 seconds or something. I might do that. Dunno. But next I'm going to try and figure out which game to do. I'm sort of almost up in the air. Maybe I'll do.
I have
Maybe I'll do.
Hang on now. I want to say I have a couple of spooky games on my radar that we could definitely do for something easy like that.
I have a couple of spooky games in my library that we have not touched yet.
Yeah. So,
although
we've got a bunch of those on our radar, and those are decently popular. I know that we have a decent following who likes those.
I totally forgot, but I have that one that's like half edited.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Anyway, that's it for this week. We'll see you guys next time, and remember, as always,
stay beautiful.